What's up, guys? Welcome back to my channel. Per usual, like, comment, and subscribe, but let's get to it. I'm actually on a roll. This is literally my third video back to back. I'm so happy. And I have the momentum. That's another thing, momentum. Like, when you have something good going, just keep doing it. Don't stop, because if you stop, you're gonna lose momentum, and then you're gonna have to start all over, and that's a pain in itself. But anyways, I'm gonna tell you about my actual process and what I went through. So in the part one of this video, that was just the general steps, but now I'm going to tell you the stressful part about it. So when I was figuring out what product I wanted to sell on Amazon, number one, I was new, so there were no guarantees in my head. I'm thinking like, there's going to be a product that jumps out at me and it's going to be the winning one. But then also I had that, little devil on my shoulder, like, ooh, what if this fails? You are about to put, I think all in total, and I probably should have put that in the other video, but in total so far, I probably spent probably $5,000 or $6,000, but that also includes the course that I took. And then I also paid for some other things in between. This isn't just for the product, it's everything I paid for to get to this point. So yeah, I was like, if I'm gonna put this amount of money into this, I needed to be successful on the first round, or I'm just not gonna be able to do it again, which is a lie. Another thing that I learned. So essentially, when I was going to figure out my product, it was around, it was right before November, I believe. And if you don't know, Amazon's fourth quarter is when people have the highest sales, because it's Christmas, everyone's buying gifts. You literally sometimes make the most money. You make more than the rest of the year in that last quarter, depending on your product and things like that, all of these other factors. But they weren't accepting new products into their warehouses because they had already had so much inventory. And I didn't know that there was a deadline that you had to have your product being shipped to Amazon in order for it to be received by them. So they initially, let me take a step back. Initially, they didn't approve my Amazon account, which typically they say it's supposed to take 2 to 3 days. And Amazon says that. They send you an email, hey, it'll be about 48 hours until we approve. They didn't approve it took them 2 weeks to approve my account. I literally had to call them so many times, and even with that, I was like, is this a sign? Does this mean I'm not supposed to be doing this? Because there was no reason it should be taking this long just for them to say yes. I didn't send in a product or anything. I just needed them to approve it. So that took 2 weeks. Got really discouraged about that, which kind of also set me back even further. So once I finally did figure out a product that I was comfortable with, and it was in what I thought was my initial price range, which turned out not to be my price range at all. I thought I was trying to spend as least money as possible because I didn't have that much to spend, but I ended up spending more than what I thought, and that's going to happen. Prepare to spend anywhere between $3,000 to $5,000, and that's for everything total. But also be prepared for your product not to be successful on its first try, and that's going to be a hard pill to swallow. But for this to be successful, you have to swallow that pill. And you may have to chuck it up as a loss and keep moving. Also, I don't recommend leaving your job in order to do this. Make sure your income is steady and you are starting this as like a nighttime, weekend, when you have free time sort of project, so that you aren't falling behind on your bills and things like that. So they weren't going to approve my account, or they approved my account, but they weren't going to accept my product, and they told me to check back in January. This was the beginning of November, and I'm like, I don't have 2 months. That's such a large amount of time to be wasted. So I was like, you know what? Let me figure this out. How can I work the system? So essentially, what I did was when you are shipping your product, if you're shipping it by air, it's obviously going to take a much quicker time to get there, anywhere between probably 7 days, 12 days to get there. But if you do it by sea, it'll take anywhere between 30 to 50 days. So I was like, you know what? I'll just have my product sent to me, and then once I get it, I'll figure out how to get it to Amazon. Child, I don't. It was. I can't even say it was a mistake because I learned so much by doing that, and I'm about to go into it. But my product was finally being shipped. I Again, I'm speaking to suppliers who are in China, broken English, and you don't really know what's happening because you never really touch the product or see the product until it arrives. So you're going off of trust. And for the most part, 99.9% you can trust the suppliers. They are a business. They're not trying to scam you or get over on you. They want your business. They want you to return. They want you to be successful because that's how they pay their bills. If there's no you and you don't have trust with them, they don't have a business. So you can trust your supplier. But it was very stressful with that amount of time passing by and not knowing where the product was. So this was, let's see, I didn't get my product to New York until March, I want to say 6th or March 8th or something like that. And I was leaving for New York for 2 weddings. This was right before Corona hit the fan. Like, I was leaving for New York for the weddings. I didn't think it would be like this crazy. So I was still going to go, and I was trying to figure out what I was going to do. Was I going to have time to pick up 40 cases, like these 40 20-pound boxes, and ship them to different parts of the state in one day? And literally, I woke up that morning. My flight was the next morning at, I think, 7 a.m. And I was about to have a nervous breakdown because that is how stressful it was. I'm like, I have this product. I don't want to waste another 2 weeks while I'm in California. And now it would have been another 2 months. Another 2 months if I would have waited. So what I did was I also didn't know that the shipping that I paid for, it was only for my shipment to get to New York. I didn't know that I had to go through customs, that I had to fill out IFS forms, that I had to pay the warehouses to house my product until I came to pick it up. I didn't know there were so many other people and steps that I had to go through before I actually received my product. So literally, I woke up, I went from Brooklyn, New York, Brooklyn to Jamaica, Queens. I was trying to save every penny because I already knew I had to spend I think I spent an extra $1,200 that day for the products themselves. So I started off on the train. It took me almost an hour and a half to get to the custom person, the person who handled customs for me and was able to clear and do the paperwork. This is a random person I emailed online, didn't know this person. No one told me to go to this person. I had to Google this information and figure out someone to get this stuff cleared through customs. That's another thing. With running a business, you are going to have to figure out some stuff that you don't know, and you are going to feel like giving up and that it is over and why are you doing this? But that is what it takes to run a business. You have to do the things that other people won't do. So I get to this place. It's over by the airport by, I think it's JFK. I don't know which airport it's by. Whichever one is in Queens. I get there. I don't know what this guy looks like. I'm walking around looking for him, and I bump into this random guy. I'm like, hey, are you such and such? Like, oh, hey, what's up? Boom. Go upstairs, give him a check for $500 to get this stuff cleared from a place that's in New Jersey. I don't have a car. And I would either have to rent a car. I knew I had to get a U-Haul, and I knew I had to get there by 3 o'clock because that's when they stopped allowing people onto the lot to pick up their stuff. So I'm in Queens. I actually get on the bus. Take the bus to a train station, which then took me to Penn Station. Penn Station, I went to a U-Haul and got this U-Haul, packed it up, went to this dock to pick up with these 40 boxes. Went to this window. This is in the back of this huge warehouse. There's one door, and you walk in, and if you've ever been worked in a warehouse, warehouses are super dirty, and like they're not about aesthetic. They are about getting your product and getting it out the door. Two ladies sitting at this desk. I wrote them another check for like $300. I literally had to unpack all of this stuff from their docks into this U-Haul. Was 40 boxes times 20 pounds each. What's that? 800 pounds worth of cargo by myself. So now I'm like, okay, I haven't printed out my labels. I haven't figured out how to print out my labels to get it to Amazon's warehouse. So in between me on my way to this warehouse, I'm on my computer on the bus using my hotspot to research how do I get these labels and what's the cheapest way to get them there. Because originally I thought I had to use these pallets, and if I had to use the pallets, it would have been another process. But luckily the guy who I ran into initially who did the customs, he mentioned that I could just send each box separately and it'll just be cheaper. He knows people who does that. And I'm like, I read that, no, you're wrong. But then I rethought it, I was like, no, you're right. So I get to, I think it was FedEx. All of the printers are down there. I can't print these labels. I'm in Secaucus. I think I'm in Secaucus in New Jersey at this point, where there are no businesses. It's mostly for shipping. It's sort of a port for exports and imports. So he's like, we can't print your labels. I'm like, hey, is there like a post office where I can go? Where can I go? He's like, well, you can check the library. I should have listened to him, but instead I went to USPS, and then they couldn't ship them either. And my window of time, because FedEx closes at 6. It is now 5 o'clock, and I have to go print these labels out, cut them, stick them onto these boxes, and get back to this, get back here to ship them off. So I ended up going to the library, the slowest libraries, oh my gosh, I don't know how we used to do it, but these are like slow as in they take their time for everything. The time is narrowing down. By the time I'm finished with these labels and figuring out how these old computers work in this library, I have 15 minutes to get back to FedEx, and hopefully they accept me with these boxes. I get there, I walk in. Luckily, this is the nicest guy ever. There's no one else in there. He's on his last like 2 boxes. He's scanning them in. I'm like, listen, like, you know, I was just here. Like, can I put these orders in? He was like, oh yeah, sure. Like, how many do you have? Like, 40? He's like, 40. Okay, like, just bring them in. I go in. Got my labels. Me and this guy, we are taping and boxing. It took us a good 40 minutes to get all of this done. So now I'm like buying into this man's time. He's supposed to be off by now. But all of this rambling is to just say that you are going to come across points within trying to start something on your own where you're not going to know what to do. You're going to feel defeated, but you have to keep pushing forward. If not, you're going to return back to where you were. And that's pretty much, for me, the same predicament. If I have to go back to a job where I'm not happy, that's just as bad as me trying to start a business and being frustrated of not knowing how to do it. They're both frustrations. They're both draining me. But for this one, I know that if I continue and if I push forward, the outcome is much better than if I go back to what I am trying to get out of. So, that one day, I left at 6 a.m. I didn't get back home until probably around 7 o'clock. It took me 9 hours. 9 hours.